getting them to comply.
Mhm.
But I think it's the step that we really should do. And check back in with you guys periodically, let you know what we found. But going forward, I guess there may be some new ordinances that require a permit locally for a new business or change of use business. That's gonna avoid this from happening again.
So how do you make the determination of where the cutoff is on, value?
Yeah,
Change.
that's part of the.
I mean, you have experience with other towns.
That town is saying over $2,500 value, depreciated value, they'll say no to. Woodbury Harbor was always 2,000.
Mhm.
Something like that. And that's total, that's not per asset that the total listed.
Yeah.
$2,000 assessment's been.
Yeah, because at that point, the time you put into it.
And so for us, you don't have a guideline? I mean,
No, I mean, this is the beginning of the conversation. I'm gonna kind of go with what we normally use, right around that benchmark and see what we're coming up with.
Just because I can't do the math, because I'm not sure what the rate is. So $2,500 translates to what for personal property tax?
$38.
$38. Okay.
$50.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And just, yeah, it's gonna be, it's a little unique because you're gonna be things that we don't, we don't realize what's out there. I mean, it's gonna be some investigating, driving by, maybe popping up some searches in Google, see if they have a Facebook page, see if they've got a web page, to see how viable the business is. Other things we have to worry about is if you take somebody that may be a logger, for example. Some of their equipment could be excised. We make sure we can't, it's excised, it's forgiven from real personal property tax. But you have to worry about that. We check with the check with the town clerk to see what's excised, what's not. But all the trailers, no trailers excised, you only pay a plate fee on that, just like your snowmobile trailer. So there's things that we break down from that. There's cases where you may have a rock and dirt guy who leases his equipment. Well, we're already getting a personal property from the lease company, CIT Financial is a big one, that they lease equipment to different people. So we have to make sure there's no double taxing. We find something, he gives us a list, we have to make sure that it's not being picked up as a leased asset, things like that. But, and then the bad part about this whole thing is anything associated with the hospital, even equipment owned by a leasing company, is exempt. You can't touch it, which is really too bad because there's lots of money up there that we can't get.
Yeah, it is. I'll admit that, personal property tax is not my favorite thing in the world. I understand there's a statute there. So, I mean, the idea of putting a letter out and just seeing, kind of probing a little bit and letting people come back. Cause I have my own opinions.
We just had a budget meeting.
We did, but I know.
It's a hard tax to collect.
But it's hard, yeah. So, the idea of, knocking on doors and going in and investigating, gets,
We're gonna get a lot of pushback from this. We will get a lot of pushback.
yeah,
for
that's
sure.
what, just be prepared, because it's not, I don't think anybody's real.
And we're not very aggressive when it comes to this as far as value. I mean, like you said, hopefully they'll give us a list that's matches what they gave to the federal government.
Yeah.
Just original cost. We'll factor up the original cost, depreciate it down for the age. And it's pretty straightforward.
Any ballpark based on the number of companies that were missed that you know about when you go after them, what the total collection might be?
Not yet.
No
idea yet. No, we really don't.
Can I go back to the thing about the ordinance? Because there must be communities when a new business comes to town, they have to register with the town.
Yep.
And we don't have.
We don't have a license,
Yeah.
Been on our goals list since 2016, I think.
Yeah, we need an ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is in the land use ordinance something I had realized, while Michael and I were interim code enforcement, that if there's a change in ownership of the commercial enterprise, it's considered a change of use, which would have required a change of use permit.
Ooh.
And that's not something that's, to my knowledge, been applied. So the spreadsheet we have for building permits is something that the assessors have access to. And so when you do your spring work, they can see what the activity is. And so we have issued a few of those change of use acknowledgements through that in this past year. So they'd be able to see a couple of them. A business licensing ordinance, is in place in some places. I think Wiscasset might have one. It doesn't have to be a significant amount of money to do it, but it could clean up things like
Yeah.
this. In order to get your license for the year, you need to be in good standing. Good standing means paying your personal property or outstanding real estate even,
Yep.
in order to get the license. The ramifications or repercussions of that would essentially follow the same as a land use violation, that 80K process if needed to be pursued. But that's one of the ways that we can kind of keep up with the change. We know there's some businesses that they could leave and another one comes in and we don't have a clue unless it's featured in the news or you just happen to see it or go there. But and so it will be a task within the staffing to keep up with them as well.
And part of this process too is the letter alludes to, there's 2 state programs that can have these taxes forgiven from the taxpayer. There's the business equipment tax exemption program, non-retail items brought into the state after 2008. You apply to the town every year for forgiveness. They pay no tax and we get a reimbursement rate of 50% from the state.
Okay.
But it's taxpayer input. They have to apply. We have to forgive them from the tax and we get a petition from the state. Right. And then older equipment and new equipment, there's the state reimbursement program where the taxpayer pays the town. And then the taxpayer files to the state for reimbursement. And then sometimes and that is usually $1 for $1 reimbursement. We get our tax locally. So we put those 2 out there. Again, it just will entice people to help and cooperate a little bit more. But we just, coming in, being new, it's always something going on. There's always something new every year. And we didn't really realize how much was missed in past years. So I think it's a time to grab it.
How much are we collecting now in property tax? Personal property tax?
That's a good question. I
I
wasn't
think on the
prepared for
books
that.
we've got,
Oh, I'm trying to remember.
it's not upwards of 100 million, but it's, I think, 11-12 million dollars of assessed value.
I bet.
There's 3 in Hannaford.
Right. That's the
million.
big one.
Yeah.
I think we're in the ballpark about 12 million of assessed value. Of the 100 and what do we have? About 200 accounts on the book, I think.
And so
What is
of
that
the ones that we've
equate to?
missed in the past, how many are those roughly?
Andy counted 40% more over what we have now.
But of the same scale, obviously.
They won't
not.
be the same. No, not at all.
Yeah.
These are gonna be more mom and pop kind of varieties. Some things like I'm really concerned about downtown. You got one guy owning the building and Lord knows who all the tenants are and who owns all that without the licensing. But if we have to, we'll get in touch with the owner of the building and he can give us the right
Well,
information.
something else, fairness issue. We've been doing some and not others. That's
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with personal property is the fairness issue. Get the grin. It's just because
I know,
yeah,
but
you don't need it if you're gonna
Walls,
Rather take
scrap.
away, but-
Drop them all.
yeah, if you're gonna get a new asset, you don't need a permit for it, but you need a permit for your new garage. It becomes very much on the backs of the taxpayers to be forefront and honest with us, which doesn't always happen. So it's a tough one. I mean, that's why we gotta have a cutoff because you'll be spending all your day chasing things that really
But you gotta
don't
be
come
consistent.
bear fruit. Yeah. But the idea is there is that significant ones that are out there that we don't have. And you could have the case, you get 2 side-by-side businesses, one does and one doesn't, and we don't want that. We don't want that. But we'll, as time goes on, we'll keep you up to date with what we're finding and what we think we wanna go.
So the plan would be to send a letter out almost immediately.
Yeah, yep.
And it has to be on we need to have that information by April 1st for it to be
No,
assessed this year.
no, because it's as of April 1st, so these letters are gonna go out early timing wise, because this is gonna be above and beyond our normal workload. Because we want a backlog of things, because even on our regular letters, if we want things as of April 1st, we can't get a list on April 1st as of April 1st. So we give people usually normal filings at the middle of May.
Okay.
So we have time to work on them, but these ones here, I'll ask him for something earlier than that. The statute allows us to do that. That way, if we're not getting people to comply, a little bit deeper dive to see how we want to approach it. Worst comes to worst, letter goes out, regular mail. If we think there's something significant, we can send out a certified letter requesting specific things. And if they don't answer that certified letter, we can give them 30 days. If they don't answer that letter within 30 days, there's no appeal.
Mhm.
We choose a number and there's no appeal. We very rarely go to that point, but that is in our back pocket to use if we have to. And that can be done any time during the year, not just for April 1st. So we'll see how things go.
You know, what we're not
All right.
talking about doing is a look back at this point because there's
Yeah.
so much to catch up on.
Right.
Let's try and get a more accurate
Yeah.
accounting of
Right.
what's there.
Going forward, yeah.
The statute would otherwise allow, like you said, to do it at any point during a year if it's been missed,
Yeah,
but
that's probably a good point to add to that letter. This is a, looking forward sort of
It's not
project.
retroactive, yeah.
Right. It could be, but no, no, please no.
let's just get it going.
Yeah, get the torches and pitchforks.
Move
Yeah.
forward.
I'm not sure you want to say that directly,
What's that?
that you're just gonna do it going forward. That gets into the sort of highlighting the fairness issue to me. I don't think you want to do that.
Well, that, you know what, if that's something that the board wants me to take on a different approach than what we're doing, that should be another discussion.
No, I'm just saying that I don't know if you want to say you're only gonna be looking forward.
I do because, well, the
Well,
reason I
right,
think I do,
Yeah.
you're gonna get human nature. You're gonna get people that'll be more apt to be forthcoming when they know it isn't gonna be 3 years of batches to collect here. You can only go back 3 years in the state of Maine. I just feel you'd get a better
How about
audience of,
using current, just a word like current? It's not so
Would-
obvious.
I'll come up with a wording, but I'm strongly against doing anything. I just won't put it in the letter at all. Just leave it out. But if anybody asks, I don't recommend that we go back.
Oh, no, I'm not
Right?
saying.
Go just take, I mean, so the letter can go as is. I just, and maybe a case by case, if somebody comes up and asks, I can personally say that, we're just trying to get things straight and going forward.
It's just my personal recommendation.
Yeah.
It's current.
Current is good.
Says current.
Yeah, it's just already on there, so
Right.
yeah. So
Okay.
it's
All right.
good, yeah.
Already got it.
I mean, that's the reality, it is going forward, so.
I just
it's not-
knowing how these things go.
Not hiding anything with it, so,
Yeah.
okay. All right,
Other than that, I mean.
yeah. See
This
how it
is
goes.
actually, it's a good year to do it because every other year in the last handful has been stabilization or this and that. We'll be taking up all of our time, so.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of any law changes this year, so.
The only one that they're working on that presumably will have something administrative to work on is potential change in the homestead to expand for those that are over a certain age that have owned the property for X amount of time or more would qualify for an additional homestead exemption. I think they were proposing 75,000, up to 75,000.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
I have, but
80.
yeah, I've seen it, but
It was kind of like trying to take what was implemented with the
stabilization.
quickly put in place stabilization program and taking some of the same pieces and just
Yeah.
adding it to an existing program.
Yeah.
And again, trying to make sure that those that it was really intending to help and support was still there. Whether it has legs and goes through the session, I don't know. But
Mm.
it's been proposed.
Interesting.
So that would have some sort of on the back end.
It
We'd have
could
to
be.
verify and find a way to know that they do meet those.
Yep, there would be another, yeah,
Age
they'd have to have a new
ownership.
application for that, but. I could see at this point being something for next year, because if it's not on the books by April, they pass it in July, by the end of the June session,
Mhm.
it'll be next year's problem, yeah. But. We're talking about maybe a factor again this year.
Yeah,
Our ratio slipping, it's been a while, we've got, the revale opening tomorrow, but in the meantime, like we've done in the past, just a stopgap factor,
Yeah.
something very basic. to Everybody, land buildings, same number, just
We did
push
last
that needle
week.
up and there's no
Across the
tax
board.
burden shift. And it'll buy us a couple of years that way.
I think right now the gap puts us, I think if it goes forward as it was proposed, we'd be below 70%.
Yeah.
The gap is a $200 million plus gap right now between what the state says we should be valuing ourselves at and what we are.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big gap, so, okay.
Yep, so that'll be the other thing we'll talk about.
All right,
Yeah,
sounds good.
I think that's all I have. Did I miss anything? Okay.
No, that'll work.
All right.
Just keep it.
We'll just get back to you at another meeting.
Yeah.
Either we'll come in person or we'll give an update through Andy and see how.
Just keep Andy in the loop and then we'll,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. No, awesome. Thank you guys.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Forward your head. Thank you, gentlemen. No.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so let's get some housekeeping out of the way, and I know we've got some folks waiting here, so we're gonna hurry, get through as what we can, so being patient. So, all right, folks, we'll get, I'm gonna get back on track with the agenda here a little bit. So we do have minutes of January 15th. Does anybody have any changes, concerns, anything with that? How'd Andy do this time around? All right?
You did fine.
Yep.
Did, okay.
I didn't have
Change it.
anything.
All right.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Josh.
Second.
Andrew's gonna second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, it's our, now, all right, so financials, payroll warrants. We had actually 4 payroll warrants. I think everybody took a look at those. There's some
Yep.
notes on them, so
Yep.
self-explanatory.
Yep.
Yeah, no. I'll move 35, 36, 37, and 38 payroll warrants. Thank you, Josh. Any discussion? None? All those in favor? Okay, yep, moves.
I did.
Josh did. Yeah, I moved. Josh seconded. Yep. We'll try to holler it out there for you. So if you don't hear us, no, feel free to holler at us. One accounts payable, number 39.
I'll move that.
Josh is gonna move that. Who wants that one?
Second.
Tom get it down there? I think Tom got that one. All right, I'll give that one to Tom. Oh, yeah. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Okay. We're good. All right. Housekeeping's out of the way. Citizens' comments, general correspondence. So I think there's some folks here in the room that
Okay.
probably want to chat. Yeah, yeah. So, we have, was Leslie coming in? No, she's,
No, so I have 2 memos or updates. PSAC.
We can do PSAC,
Folks
yeah.
from PSAC are here. The memo essentially for the board was included in your packet.
Yeah,
I don't know if Anton,
absolutely.
you want to come up and.
so at this point, we'll turn it over to, folks from PSAC here, whoever's heading it up wants to go.
I think they threw you under the.
How you doing, Anton? Yeah, jeez.
They just said, go, Anton, you take the heat tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How you doing? It's been a while, Anton. How you doing, man?
Good.
Good.
Actually, it's kind of exciting times, I think, for us. So thank you for listening to us and taking this time. Like, what I want to start with is that this is a request of the board, and it comes from really a subset of the PSAC, Public Safety and Accessibility Collaborative, and several of them here. Derek Weber, who is a co-chair with me, and many of you know him from his work with the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Mary Lee Harris, who lives at the intersection and sees it every way and every day. Jim Kutch, who is a resident that really looks at, I think, sees things in a sense from an ADA perspective. And then Lisa Hagan, who is not here, but is away. And we've been talking about this for a long time, actually, and particularly about pedestrian safety at the intersection, but not only pedestrian safety in general at the intersection of Bristol Road, Main Street, and Church Street. And I'm sure you've all experienced it in one way or another. A couple of things that I would mention from the letter that, or the memo that I hope everybody has had an opportunity to look at. And
Yes.
one of the important things to make sure is in the room is that PSAC has really dedicated itself to community safety and to call attention to matters that we think ought to be brought before the board or before the community. And this is one of them. And right now, this is very much on our mind. We've been watching this intersection very, very closely, as I said, for several years, and think it's time now that we look at it through the eyes of some professionals, which would be DOT, going to DOT and asking them to look at it. We're not engineers. for citizens that look at things to say can it be improved in terms of safety? So in the letter, there's a series of suggestions at least, and what we said is to assess the intersection and make recommendations for a combination of improvements for safety, including pedestrian activated walk signals. If you've watched, particularly around school time, when it get out and in the summer, crossing a Main Street and crossing Bristol Road, it can be a life-threatening kind of activity, and it shouldn't be.
It's an event.
It shouldn't be. And we think there's an opportunity to take a serious look at that. So it's pedestrian, it's traffic control. We often see cars going through, if not red lights, the very tail end of yellow lights and so forth. So I'm not saying something that you're not aware of. And yet I know a lot of people have put time in to look at this, but the yellow light going southbound, Marilee keeps talking to us about it, and we've listened, and she really is somebody who has made a lot of input to us. There are multiple crosswalks. Are they in the best location? Is it easy to go from the I guess would be where Marilee actually lives, on the library side of the Main Street, across and be able to get to the church, get to the dentist, be able to walk down to the hospital complex.
Get stuck
All
on-
of these
stuck on the
things.
Island in the middle there.
What's that?
Get stuck on the island in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that has a destination of that island. If you do, let me know. But they get there and they're kind of stuck, and I could go on and on with that activity, but it's something to be proactive about. I went back to try to see if I could find data from the town, and I couldn't come up with that. And I'm not a big believer that you wait for an accident and then respond to it, but recognize that it's a place that really needs some attention. And I think DOT could make a really invaluable contribution to the town. It's consistent with their safety plan for 24, which was brought to us actually by Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission, and to look at it as part of this whole process. So without taking a lot of time, I want to just add that I think it's consistent, and it's really a little bit proactive with the comprehensive plan about the whole infrastructure set of issues and the safety that's emphasized there. And I've talked with Andy about it, and he said that's a select board matter. And I'm here to before the select board, not at his recommendation, but at his absolutely his encouragement. And I would like to see the board vote, or however you want to handle it, but go to the DOT and say, we really would like an assessment done to look at this from the standpoint of safety. It would be very, very helpful to have something done before early June, and I said June 1, so it would be something that would help us, I think, to say we really are a pedestrian friendly, a bike friendly, a walk friendly community at another level. And I know you work at that. We're very concerned about that, and that's why I'm here. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
One of the things the DOT usually asks for when they're looking at the intersections like that for safety is what is the accident history there? Did you happen to check with the chief of police to see if there any history of, a lot of accidents? I mean, what you're asking makes a lot of sense, and I'd be in favor of it. But generally speaking, that's one of their major criteria is when they want to make a change.
So I have a personal chief. And he totally agrees there are numerous numbers of accidents. supports.
Okay, good.
There are actually our DOT report. You can go on the DOT website and see where traffic spots are. There's hot spots all over town.
I tried
So that
tracking
information-
it down, but I didn't go deeply enough, I think.
So, no question, it's a funky intersection.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Right.
lot of challenges there, right? You've
Yep.
got major thoroughfares, and then there's the offset with
Yep.
Church Street, and there's some weird stuff going on. So, and I don't remember when the light went in, when they redesigned it. Oh God, when was that, Josh? How long
A
ago?
long time ago.
I always
but
look at you and say.
I will
Yeah.
tell you that, originally that was designed so you wouldn't be turning left onto Church Street.
The original design, yeah.
Original design.
Okay.
And we did have the engineers come down years ago after we first happened and they put it in, and the lead engineer for the state said, I don't understand why we redid this intersection this way. So
No,
that was a red flag in my mind at the beginning,
Mhm.
so.
Yep.
Maybe we need to go
At
back.
least there should be, do they have like a safety enhancement type or any type grants where you can just have them come in and
Let's see, just assessing
Assessing.
I don't think, I don't think we need a grant for it. I think
Or-
an intersection of a state aid and a
State should be
state
looking at it,
highway.
yeah.
Right.
And I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, the recommendation or encouragement for Anton and the group to come forward to the board was so in case they asked, is the
Yeah.
town or board supportive of
Yes,
this? I feel
right.
like it's important for them to know, yes, it's come to the select board's attention,
And
but they have a safety team that
Team,
do these
right.
types of things, whether it can happen, be assessed and recommended and implemented before June, I don't know.
I don't
yeah,
think it's
the-
gonna
the
happen.
the timeline might be
Yeah.
optimistic. We'll work with DOT.
We'd be lucky we get a response back.
But
by
isn't,
June
aren't we
1st.
participating in a DOT partnership, planning partnership that's supposed to look at the entirety of Main Street?
Not the entirety.
But starting at that
sections.
location.
At Church
Church
Street
Street.
intersection where Vine Street intersects it there.
Up to
North.
wherever.
So the light is just south of that point.
Oh, so neat.
We did ask the question.
Can we
But
request them?
unfortunately, no, that'll have to be a separate, no, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't have
Just
to, but
extend it
that's
100 feet or
right,
something.
that's-
So from the board in supporting, you know, the request from PSAC, I mean, yes, I think we're all in agreement that it's a wonky intersection. There might be limits to what can happen there, but, you know, I think I'm hearing from everybody that we would support, you know, saying, hey, reaching out to DOT, whoever contacts DOT, say, hey, you know, we're getting requests. This intersection is we don't want something to happen here.
Right.
And the you know, the municipality and the citizens are behind, you know, somebody coming out and assessing it. The timeline might not be what you guys are looking for. June might be a little aggressive for getting DOT, anything municipal to.
Right.
So we do, I just caution, be patient, because it probably, you know, if you, once they, you start the communication and get it through and they find somebody to come out,
right.
may not happen that soon.
No, I-
or even
and I-
look at
yeah.
it. But, I think we probably all in agreement that, yeah, it's something that we could get behind and say, hey, let's poke the DOT bear and have them, yeah, get an assessment team or something to have it on their radar.
Are the
So,
current
yeah.
signals working? You know,
No,
no,
the, signal for pedestrians doesn't work,
Okay, yeah.
so that's.
and the ADA plates are compliant at this point?
Doubt it.
Okay.
Some of those, especially the ones on the median were those,
The plates may be compliant, but you don't have any audible
Okay,
detectors to tell you where the buttons are.
okay,
So you can't find them
okay.
Okay.
without vision.
well, I'm saying they might not be because we put the brick down.
Yeah.
And if they're steel plates, they might still have enough of a raised bump on them, but I'm pretty sure with the plowing activity that has occurred since those brick ones went in.
Yeah,
They've been worn down.
okay.
And so we have a study Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission had written something up not that long ago that identified every crossing in Damariscotta to be non-compliant.
Mhm.
And so I'm gonna, between that and knowing we put brick in years ago,
Yeah.
there's probably not enough there to be truly compliant. The other issue, you know, practically when you cross into that median, if any of you have done that, try to put yourselves in the position of someone who's unable to see fully or all and try to walk that. We did with Jim and his colleague that was gracious enough while he was in town to look at it with Michael and I. It's a challenge with the number of signs that are on that median.
Yeah, it's not
There's a lot going on there. And it's not like there's a lot of room to step off and still be safe. Some people do go through, so it is certainly worth consideration. We had looked and walked up the street a little bit to where the chamber building is and tried to see, like, where on Bristol Road and where else on Main Street in that upper part can people cross so they can access Bristol Road? And we were trying to identify, is there a place within the chamber that offers enough distance and sight? Maybe that you could move that crossing up the road?
Well,
Or down Bristol Road.
I do this all the time.
Yeah.
I walk up by the chamber office and scoot across over to sort of,
Circumvent that.
to circumvent the
I don't know why,
intersection.
but my wife yells at me every time I to your point about accident statistics, there are a lot of people who don't want to be an accident statistic, so that you don't cross the street. Stay on the other side.
But years ago, before the state redid Main Street, there used to be a crosswalk by First National Bank. And then they redesigned everything and took that one away, so you don't have the bump outs and everything now.
Yeah, that's right. There used to be one right
There
there.
used to be one there, so that
Yeah.
pushed it up further to make that headache in the triangle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other problem is getting out of the Baptist church and trying to go back to the parking, like over at First National or something like that. You gotta go all the way up, go over to the island, and come
Right.
down the other side. It's-
And we lost our cannon.
Yeah, the cannon, we lost that.
We had a cannon in the triangle. We lost our cannon too, so.
That's how we did
Yeah, that's right. There was a gazebo, yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely, I mean, we appreciate, we hear the concern. I think it's one of those things where, you're trying to prevent something before it happens.
Yeah, one of the suggestions that came up from, years ago, I was on a committee here that looked at the peninsula, including Damariscotta, and one of the suggestions that came up at that time was to put in an all-stop light for pedestrians. And and the way it would work simply is a pedestrian hits the button and everybody stops, not just Main Street, but Bristol as well. Because coming across, you get caught in the traffic of Bristol Road when you cross Main Street, et cetera. So there may be some options that could be looked at in a new way. And I do.
Things to make it a little bit safer that.
Yeah, and I do understand the time, the way the DOT operates, but I think it's better to sometimes push a little bit than not.
You've got, I mean, there's somebody we can.
Yeah, there's a new regional planner for DOT, Stephen Cole had retired recently, so I've talked to another person who's kind of been assigned to overlook our PPI project, which again is just north of that intersection, but I haven't met with our new regional planner, I don't think yet. So I can reach out to them and just see if they can help us get in touch with, so they're aware of it. And
just make them aware, reach out to them.
Safety of being with.
Yeah. We see that citizens concern that, and the citizens are having. Board ears on, and we like just, need to get some sort of little plan going, or somebody can come up, look at it, and we can send them, hey, try to cross this.
Sure.
At night.
Yeah. We're during school hour.
Yeah, during the school hour, anytime,
Well, thank you for your time. My
thank you, guys.
understanding from the conversation with Andy would, if the board said yes, that he could be.
Directing him to go.
Person to communicate with.
We got a head nod
DOT.
that, yeah, and like you said, we'll check in, just be patient. There's a lot of moving parts to a lot of this stuff, and definitely dealing with
Right.
DOT. We'll add something to Andy's level of his desk is getting a little heavier and heavier, but.
Yeah, I would add that one of the driving points was that the planning partnership stops at where Church Street comes into Main Street, so that intersection is not part of it.
Right.
Am I correct on that? Yeah. I
Just
said
south of
that
it, yeah.
already. Anyway,
Just fell outside the.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons we're here too.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And
Thank you, guys.
About that is if we do something up there by the chamber, another crosswalk has something additional, it does fall into that project.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe it's something they have to, whether it falls in that scope or not,
Yeah.
they may have to have some foresight to say, yeah, we better look at this a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. No, thank you guys.
Yeah.
So, as always, thanks for coming in. We appreciate your updates. Well, we've got more to go. Nobody wants to run out now, do they? All right, awesome. Where are we at here? So,
Dr. Leslie's letter.
yeah, we had a letter from, there's another Leslie.
Well, who doesn't
Yes.
like that? I
Yeah.
mean, it's all good stuff.
But yeah, I think, we appreciate it. Yeah, they do a great job and, like I say, we do appreciate it when they come in and bring us up to speed on what they're doing and it's,
I was
yeah.
gonna make a comment because as you know, I've been interested in the river.
Mhm.
And I'm happy to say that I haven't seen any new applications for new areas of the river to be occupied.
Oh, gotcha.
Only renewals, and that's been about almost a year now.
Just renewals right now.
Maybe we had some influence, maybe not. I don't know, maybe just coincidence, but anyway, I'm happy that I haven't seen any.
Yeah.
But and I think, to build on that, I think the harbor master at one point in talking with him when this conversation really kicked up about a year ago. He had acknowledged also as an aquaculturist himself that like there's also really not a whole lot of space left anyways.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Without being in the way and of overlap and navigation and other sites, you need the right depth to be able to do some of this stuff as well. And so the saturation point, from a business perspective is also kind of high. In a lot of regards on our portion of it.
Right.
Newcastle does go a little further south and there's still plenty of places south of that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
End up going to places that are not
There were
cost
also-
effective.
There was also talk about doing the tidal zone, and that got dropped, but
Mhm.
they were that would be a little more difficult, right?
I think so, yeah. I think
So
so.
just an update, she will be available in the future. She's been shared with Newcastle as well. She's offered to come to future meetings, but really, now that it's been awarded is really needing to make sure that there's opportunity and, whether it's, us sharing it with folks or talking about it on the street as you see folks, they'll need to collect these stories and these experiences
Yeah.
that people are having to really make this worth this while. But I think a lot of it piggybacks on what the board's been trying to learn more about it themselves. So.
It's great.
Mhm.
Yeah, as long as she's, I'm always welcome to come in and update us on hearing what they're doing, so.
definitely.
Great, all right, well, move along. Andy, anything important in your report here? Anything good going on?
Flood wall.
Any highlights? Yeah.
Flood wall has arrived.
Yeah.
It's on the public works site. And it's 4 crates.
Mhm.
They will have a couple of reps from the company coming through on Monday. They're down at something in Boston area anyways, but
Monday,
in the shipment or somewhere between the transition from one truck to the other, there was some minor damage to the exterior crate.
Yeah.
With one of them, so we identified that. John saw it pretty quick and the driver of the truck reported it right then. So the solution is those folks coming through will drop off a new PVC, I think it's a PVC material, same material, I think as the wall itself. And just drop that off, take the old one off, put the new one on, make sure nothing else has happened inside. And so
they're on it, taking care of
they're
it.
taking care of that. The second half of the amount of money owed will be handed to them at that point. I've seen some of these shipping issues go really sideways for those that have received it, and the company that you're buying it from says, send us the money. The issue you have is with the shipping company. You need to deal with them.
Yeah, right.
They've been really good to say they've got right into it and said, we don't want you guys out on this. Like, we'll take care of it and work on the other side of it.
That's great.
So that was nice to
Good,
hear.
good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They are, I've asked, training wasn't built into the cost of this. And so he said, well, initially he said, well, pretty straightforward and the videos, do show. And I'm like, well, I understand, but talking about 850 feet in a pretty significant effort, by more than just 2-person crew. So it'd be good to appreciate the full extent of what this is and to learn from them on tricks and tips and those kinds of things. So, they offered it in February. They're going to be doing another as part of this trip. But preferred it to be indoors. And so that's a large space. And 2, we're not going to get to really appreciate the space in which we're going to use
Right,
it.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
we're going to look to have them come here in the spring.
Okay.
when the weather's a little
Great.
bit warmer. And we're not dealing with the snowbanks and that kind of thing, and probably take the day and advertise that we'll have it out, so. Give a
can
a
come
good
and
chance to really see what it takes to put the whole thing
Yeah,
out.
yeah, we've gotta try
put
it.
Back up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. But pick a day where it's good weather, so we don't have to worry about cleaning it and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
great.
So it's
Great.
I think a $2,000 expense for them to come do that, but
Okay.
it's a big investment. We need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do it right. Wait till we need it and then not know how to
Right.
put it out.
Keenwood's progress has been a little bit slow. They were trying to chase and identify a leak somewhere, and they did finally find it after a couple of weeks of pressure tests and coordinating it. But with the temperatures they've had and the snowfall, they really haven't been doing a whole lot out there. They're working through the project cost to connect the homes that tested high for PFAS. The costs to do that were a little higher than what DEP was assuming they might be. I mean, when they have to put a filter system in for a place that tests high, they know what that cost is initially. It's slightly unclear as to the frequency at which they're gonna have to come back and replace the media, the filters, and eventually the filter system itself that has to be replaced at some point. In this case, for those sites, the state will kind of forever own that responsibility. So that's why connecting it to a public system is better long-term. But in doing so, it's a numbers game, what's it cost now for this versus that? And one amount of funding was available to extend the water line. Another amount of money from DEP was to connect the houses to that line. So that pool of money right now, they're trying to work through, because the cost estimated between $3 and $5 grand by DEP for each hookup. Right now at $200 a foot with houses sitting 200 feet off the road. It's a fair amount higher, and that's not assuming what you run into for potential for ledge. There's been a lot of ledge under the road base, and presumably that runs up some of those lawns.
Right.
And so they were looking at a total hookup cost on the engineering side of potentially like $700,000 to get all those homes hooked up. And if you had those 20 homes, the state was thinking more like 100,000. And so there was a pretty sizable gap that's
Big
trying to
difference,
work
yeah.
through and figure out. And my understanding is that this project is a little bit of a guinea pig with regards to trying to mitigate the PFAS impact on homes. And so they're also learning on their end. Yes, it might be higher now. How they work through justifying that higher cost today is one of the questions, I guess.
I think it was on the water district's board agenda
Tonight.
about trying to get DEP to do what they need to do.
Right.
Mm.
I bet.
The just highlight John's been doing a great job with Public Works getting the equipment. Finally, I feel like we're at a point where we're caught up on that stuff. He was out straight there for a while trying to get the lights on the equipment for better visibility. At night, especially during the day. Those lights that are on there in the daytime, you don't really see a whole lot with that one little bulb going. And if you're in either the tractor or the whacker going down Main Street or going down Biskie Road, it can sometimes be a little hairy. You want to make sure people can see you. So he's relit all four sides of all the equipment.
Okay,
The
good.
truck's got more lights on
We
it.
can see them now.
So I'd
I
rather
haven't
go.
seen them yet, so.
I'd rather go a little overboard on that to make sure that whoever's in that is well seen. There's been a couple
Yes.
close calls while he's been clearing sidewalks already with plow trucks and such, with a curb line, and the shoulders are narrow, but there aren't much of her shoulders from the white line over. But you're in that truck and you see that plow coming, they know you can see the lights, but sometimes knowing exactly where that tip of that wing is as it hangs out over the curb is, he had a couple close calls. He was prepared to jump ship at one point.
Oh, boy, yeah, that's so scary.
So I think it's just, again, good investment to make us, whoever's in those machines.
Well, we want them safe.
We're fortunate that he's got that skill set to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's to do it right and well. So
Yeah.
you're not getting back into it in a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good work there. Fire department, John had gotten two quotes for treating the concrete in the truck bays. It's been sealed one time since it was built, so it's been almost 30 years now.
Gaining, yeah.
And so it's important to keep that surface, as most of you probably appreciate, from getting pitted and where oil and water and just letting that, we don't want that slab to crack. And it is cracking, which is why we're trying to get this done. The first quote came back for an epoxy finish, was like $88,000, I believe.
Not
John
surprising.
was figuring in the ballpark of about 50.
Mm.
So a little
Not
higher.
surprising.
The second quote came back, was a slightly different product, but felt confident in what we're looking to accomplish for, it was about 55, somewhere, and what he was hoping for a price. And so that's something that presumably he'll be recommending we go forward with at some point soon. The hang up right now is upon looking at the floors in the building, there's been some significant cracking identified, that they want to make sure there aren't significant structural deficiencies. In the meeting room, for example, there's the crack starts in the top corner by the door, and comes all the way down to the floor, but just follows that line of brick or blocks down. And then as you look along the toe kick, or not toe kick, but the
Baseboard.
baseboard there,
base, yeah.
you can see where the slab is kind of separated from the wall itself a little bit.
Yeah.
We know buildings move over time. The concern we have there is the weight of that building sitting on what's likely clay, not knowing how deep those footings are, whether they're on anything that is solid or floating essentially on that. So wanting to expedite the engineering work to have someone come in and look at that building before investing in
An assessment.
all of
done.
these things to find that
Right.
these are actually more structural issues than we realize, and let's address that before we put the surface on the floor. I think he sent me a picture of the truck bay. You could look into the comm room. There's a crack in the brick wide enough to actually look in there. And I think the only place that you saw that hasn't really seen is around the water tower?
Post tower.
Post tower.
Yeah, right.
You know, so there's just some things that we need to get checked out there to make sure before we put the new roof on and invest in this floor, that we don't find in 2 years that we should have done something different and wasted the
Yeah.
investment.
Right.
Yeah,
So we're gonna work on trying to get someone in to look at that
okay.
sooner. I did give him a number of someone who actually came to my house from TC Hafford to maybe start that angle. I mean, they're dealing with
Well, I think
foundations and such on a daily basis. And so as a starting point, just to get a better sense of this, you know, I'll say it's normal, but okay, here's what they can do. He mentioned that they have a system in place for a solution that they could, if it's on piers, which it appears to be, that's what the plans called for. So we were assuming that it was built as it was spec'd in the plans we have. It's a matter of we'd have to do some excavation, but figure out what's happening underneath those pilings, those footers. So just got to figure that out.
Gotcha.
Missing anything significant on there, Josh?
No.
Just a lot of things we got to look into.
Some assessments done first, so.
The new officer has completed the 100-hour course. If you see two people in the cruisers on these evening shifts lately, it's because he's going through his FTO with the sergeant. Right now, he's working alongside Kyle to go through that process. The total FTO period is generally assumed to be about 12 to 16 weeks, depending on the person and how well they can pick things up. But he's qualified with his firearms. The 100-hour course is completed. The other test, I think the physical fit's been completed as well. So he'll get through that. Tentatively, he'll be able to be on patrol on his own end of March and somewhere in early April, if he stays on track. We are anticipating another opening in March. Phil has given his notice to retire.
This year?
Yep. So he'll work through March at this point, and then Matt would end up going to the academy in August, would be the next offering. Do 2 a year. What's happening right now. So just as a heads up there, I'm sure Chief will talk more about that when he's going through his budget stuff. There are some budget implications around those personnel pieces. New code officer had started on the 20th, and he's picking up some of those violations that I had mentioned previously, I think at a meeting that we had generally. both property owners are communicating with us. One is anticipated to be for the planning board's agenda in March. The other one, I think it's doesn't require planning board review, just based on how the ordinances are now. The uses that were there went from a more commercial use to a home-based type occupation. It has a couple of rooms for board, which if you're under a certain, I think it's 5, the ordinance allows for that to happen in the, can be approved internally, given that it's in the commercial district. So we're trying to work with them, both of them, on getting those issues resolved and properly documented. And I'm not sure how much you're aware. I don't think I've really talked much about it. Nissen Farm, the back end of that, there's 2 subdivisions out there over a period of time.
Mhm.
That back end, the newer piece,
Yeah.
it went through approval, I think, in 2018, and the planning board had approved a road plan that was submitted, called for asphalt, had a road profile that was to be built. And the end of the road was to be like a hammerhead style turn, to get back out. That had changed after some input, in discussion with the fire chief and code officer, which happened in the field. The question and the idea that was proposed was more of a roundabout. Everyone kind of agreed that would be a more preferable design, but it never went through any sort of official approval and amendment to the subdivision.
Yeah, I remember that.
Subdivisions are a little more matter of fact, than some of the stuff we deal with on the permitting side. And so it requires a simple amendment. It's pretty straightforward. The problem that we've run into is the developer, the applicant at the time, doesn't own, everything's been sold. And so it's been a slower process trying to get them to come back 6 years later, 7 years later, to fix these things. But it's finally happening. Some of the property owners, because they had received a letter from us this fall saying no permits can be issued until this is resolved and built as approved. Michael spent a lot of time trying to make this resolution happen.
Okay.
We're trying to avoid any significant legal issues or battles here. The developer was slow to want to acknowledge and take this on. At the end of the day, you've got now property owners and the town saying it wasn't built as proposed, as filed with the county, as approved. Simple. It needs to be fixed. So they are working through that.
Yeah, they have a road association, or how do they manage?
That's
the
kind of
road?
what kicked it up.
Yeah.
So there's 2 essentially, the paved, the original
There's a Nissen
road.
Farm Association and there's a Nissen Farm Extension.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so.
Are those public roads or are those are private roads?
So that's,
Okay.
if you're hearing anything about that, that's in a nutshell kind of what's happening there. They should be on they're anticipated to be on the March meeting as well. That's what we've asked, so hopefully that can move
Planning
forward.
board.
Yeah,
Planning board, yep.
gotcha.
And
Okay.
the work that needs to happen, either it goes back to what was proposed and approved, and it's a 2 days, maybe 3 worth of work. Get the amendment through the planning board, potentially to eliminate the asphalt. We don't require the asphalt to go down, but if folks are in agreement at this point that there's no asphalt there, so be it. Just go through the process, an even simpler amendment. The other option would be they're gonna have to potentially acquire the easements necessary to match the layout of the road as it went in. It's in their court to remedy. Investment account there, I did put in there, the most recent activity on some of our trust funds, those
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
trusted with HM Payson to manage. This came in front of us because I'd gotten a letter in December saying HM Payson's been bought by my company.
Mhm.
We'd have the same account manager, they still have contact here, location here to work out of, but they had talked internally and weighed different options to make sure their clients are best served, and they found a partner that they felt was still gonna carry their values forward, still provide the level of
Who is it?
work with us. I don't remember the name as well. And so Cheryl and I met with them and they walked us through that relationship. I've signed that agreement with them, just acknowledging it's kind of been a transfer, and same account manager that we'll continue to work with. It just gives them more resources on the back end to focus more on us essentially, where they're not having to deal with HR and IT issues. It's just they call someone else that so they can focus more on our needs. They can leverage more in the market by having combined now the assets. So there's that historically, and Dan on paper still on the committee.
Well, I've never been to a meeting, so.
I have not called for a meeting since I've been here.
Might be on.
The finance committee.
3 years, I haven't been to
I-
a meeting.
I don't remember, but
Yeah.
I remember getting appointed, but I've never attended because there's never been a meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So when was the last meeting?
God, it must be probably 4 years ago, I'm guessing.
yeah. at
Well,
least.
we're really fortunate that they've been doing so well with our portfolio.
Can I ask a question? What are these endowments for?
Yeah, so most of it is the majority of that is the Philbrook Fund.
Oh,
Right.
I think there was like a $400,000 principal that went in there on an inception.
Yep.
And so
Okay.
that was one of my questions. I mean, Philbrook Fund's on our radar anyways, but you know, we just keep assuming that we can take $20,000 a year out of that and still be under the goal of making sure that there's a healthy balance there. And so just not knowing exactly where are we with that percentage, that benchmark we had set
Right.
for ourselves. You know, and they kind of started to share this. The other accounts in there really are cemetery trust funds.
Okay.
Pretty limited in the types of public money we can invest in, where these were, you know, kind of bequeaths in these trusts, they can kind of be invested differently.
okay.
They did say that, you know, I think it might be possible that we could invest some of our like reserve money potentially with them. As long as we're not the ones investing and we hire someone like them or another firm, third party to do that work. It's possible that we could explore investing some of our reserve money towards down the road, 10 years out from now before we spend it, or need liquid asset. That's something that we might want to consider, which is partly why I'm bringing up the finance committee.
Yeah,
Well, it's
that's-
been a while and maybe kind of running this by them, sharing the Philbrook Fund
Yeah.
piece again.
it would be a good time to
Somebody
maybe
definitely ought
revisit
to be
that.
meeting with the manager like quarterly and understand more about how they're actively managing the portfolio, whether it's a model portfolio that's generally shared with others or specific to us. What are the guidelines? What are the goals? Whatever. Bottom line though is they've been on automatic and they've been doing really well.
So there must be some sub accounting to know what the different, like the different pieces of it. Like,
Yeah.
is the Philbrook Fund $1 million now or something, you know, that kind of thing?
They don't know the answer to that. They just manage
The
these
money.
two accounts, and we know on the back end what's in there. The auditors track all
Okay.
of that essentially. In a perfect world, it's like this fund's here and is invested here. This one's here and is invested here. But when you start to take 5 funds and jam them into
No,
these,
that's what I'm asking about sub
right.
accounting, you know.
So we have
how
it
is that?
essentially on the back end through the
Okay.
audit process.
Yeah.
Same thing with our general checking fund has our general operating budget monies in there as well as
Yeah.
our reserve accounts. So all that sub accounting has to happen for the reserve accounts as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Through a different entity, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's something if the board sees value still in having a committee, they're appointed at your pleasure. It's just a matter of, it's been a while. If you want to bring that back.
I think we
Let me
should.
know. We're probably gonna have to potentially look at adding some new people, I'm guessing, to the list.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. I mean, we could do a lot of moving parts here, so it wouldn't hurt to at least revisit it. We can check with, I know I don't remember the last time we appointed somebody. I don't remember Dan being on it. It was appointed you before you were on the.
I think it's term board then, right?
It's been a while.
4, I think.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I haven't been on one.
So, yeah, if you're, I mean, yeah, you're definitely seeing a need for it and maybe revisit those accounts. So it'd be helpful to have some folks that have some investment and banking background that know what they're talking about.
I don't know if to ask the question, is there better ways for us to earn interest on our balances?
Right.
Beyond the strategy of that, I'm not
Right.
Yeah.
well versed in. You know, there's CDs, there's general checking.
I'm not
just
gonna-
Well,
interest rates, which aren't much on either end.
The question is there a legal limitation in terms
There
of
are.
what you can? And I believe there are
Yeah.
for, at least for the municipal funds probably. So, yeah.
Yep.
It might be just the fixed income account there.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it's within Title 30A, which has many
Yeah.
sections of, but there are limitations.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I was surprised to learn from these folks. They said within 30A that if you're hiring a third party, an independent of the town, then they can manage those assets for you. So it's a question of what does that exactly mean? Are the reserve balances, some of which are gonna grow to pretty large amounts, like take the fire truck fund that you were bringing up. At that amount of money each year, all of a sudden, like, there's a lot of leverage there.
Yeah.
And if we're waiting for 10 years to buy a truck, like, is that an account that we should try and invest to earn more than 2%?
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
So why don't we, what I heard was from Dan was he wants to be on the committee still.
Yeah,
I did hear that.
definitely.
Did I read you or no?
It's fine. I'm happy to be on it. I'd be curious to meet my fellow committee members.
But why don't we, I mean, we can check, I know Bill's, you know, I mean, we can check and see put some feelers
Who
out
should
and
we, yeah.
see
have
who might
on it?
want to be on that.
There's a committee now that
Yeah.
just go down through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is,
There is a member list right now.
Most terms have expired, but
But
there
they've
is
expired,
a
yeah.
list of those that were last on it.
So we could start with, you've got,
Where
yeah,
is that?
Bill Brewer and George Beck.
When you have your first meeting, I'd like to be a
Manager's
guest,
report.
but I don't want
No,
to,
you can join.
I don't want to be on the committee.
So maybe put some feelers out to them first and see if they still want to do that or whatever, and we can go from there. Yeah.
I know, one of them remembers you well, Stephen, Eddie.
Oh, Steve Eddy, yeah.
Um,
I used to,
He mentioned some baseball back
yeah,
in the
he
day.
and I were in a fantasy baseball league together. so.
And the other one that had met with us was Dan Lay.
Oh, I know Dan too.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, they've been around with us for quite a while. They know a lot of our folks. They remember meeting. I think they met quarterly.
Okay.
It was mostly just a presentation of how it really
Yeah.
was working, but
Yeah. All right.
so who's gonna take
Sounds
the
good.
lead on this? You are?
Dan,
yeah, I'll probably just confirm whether the folks that
Feel
were
it
out.
last appointed are still interested, should it come back.
Okay.
And then know going from there, how many available spots there are, and then
Okay.
presumably you'll prefer to be strategic about who fills that out. And not just,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
if you want them to advise us on the investment opportunities, let's make sure we're pulling in people that can help us.
That know what they're,
No.
I agree.
know a thing or two about money.
Yeah.
So sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else on, I know we had HM Payson on discussion item, but we can,
Well, we
else on
didn't
that,
do
we
the
move.
Jefferson facility.
we'll,
fund.
yeah, I'm just checking to make sure, so we don't go back to
I think it's the
HM
last-
Payson, so.
is that the last thing?
Yeah, I think so. If we're good there, let's take a look at the Noblesboro Jefferson Transfer Station Facility Contract. The mystery, how does it all?
all right to me.
Yeah, it's largely I don't think it's unchanged other than
No.
the dollar value. I will say the last year's contract, though approved by the board, I sent it back to Noblesboro. And I had gotten a signed copy at the January meeting I went to this past year.
Mhm.
Right.
I had put the updated amount in our budget book, in the comment section. But we did not make those payments, those increased payments to them for 2024. So they let us know that we owe them an additional sum of money, some of which goes in the last fiscal year, which is gonna have to come out of this fiscal year. So I think the total year's amount that we owe them was $25,000. We had budgeted for it last year, but,
Budgeted for it, but we didn't.
or this year, but
But we
that,
should,
that accounts for 6 months of their previous fiscal year.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
and now we're looking at another increase, because again, they're off 6 months from us, so we're estimating what'll come their next fiscal year. So you'll see that on tail end of this fiscal year, that we're gonna be over on that particular budget item. It sits within general government, which Cheryl and I are pretty confident we'd be able to work without exceeding the approved number from the
Mhm.
voters. But we're gonna have to essentially take some from contingency and probably some from another department, basically, to make sure we're not over general government that was approved. So
Okay.
just a heads up there. The meeting was first one I'd been to since I've been here. That had something come up the previous 2 years that I couldn't go.
How did it go?
Kevin had also attended from Newcastle. No one from Bremen was there. Interesting, still learning how the governance works of that. I don't know the full history on it, but I think it was about 1980 something, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong. It looks like they formed, the two towns formed this transfer station. That's Jefferson and Noblesboro. They formed a town council of government to run this.
Yeah.
We did get that document that was signed in 1995, which again looked like potentially a second iteration of that. I don't know if there's been a continuation of signing that in 05 and what would be due in 2025 for expiration between the two towns, but just that governance of that was the question.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
You know, when they present their budget, it was just different for Kevin and I and how we present our budget here. We estimate every cost we can think of.
Mm-hmm.
We ask the taxpayers to raise an amount of money less expected revenue. And that's how we set our mill rate and what we're raising from the voters. They are a little bit different. They have their fixed costs for staff, overhead for the building. They know based on averages essentially that the solid waste that comes in, the demo that comes in, but they're only, when they assess the rates to the towns, member and non-member towns, it's removing pretty much anything that's paid for at the facility, demo, hazardous waste, those special fees that they collect. All of that cost and revenue is not budgeted when they do the assessment to the towns. And so that was a little bit different for Kevin and I when we're trying to look at this, you know, so you're talking about half of their expenses are unbudgeted. It's $1.1 million, I think, operation. You know, they're budgeting and raising money from member and non-member towns in the tune of about $500,000. Everything else appears to be covered by the fees that come in. But I know when I present our budgets, I wouldn't have presented $500,000 short in expenses without having to then go to the voters. So slightly different how it's a council of government, how that works. It doesn't go to the voters for approval like our budgets do.
Yeah.
They have that agreement between the two towns to administer it, and they assess a fee to us, kind of like the ambulance would do. And so again, kind of learning that. I'm a little concerned about the manager's report that was given and the capital needs they're facing. You know, from his perspective, in the next 5 years or so, there's a backhoe that should be replaced. There's asphalt work that should be considered in the facility. He thinks there should be an additional hopper set up for all the commercial activity that comes in from the trash trucks. They're doing curbside pickup essentially. You try it right now. What they're doing is they back up to the demo bin and dump in the demo. Demo usually comes at a slightly higher cost than the municipal solid waste, I believe. I'm trying to remember this from finally. And you're also not able to compact it in that demo bin. It comes compacted, number one, so it's hard to recompact, but by putting it in the demo bin, it goes uncompacted, so you're getting a lot less tonnage in those hauls than you would otherwise in a compacted solid waste load. So that means your cost to haul are higher than the other. I know out on the island, I was used to seeing about 7 to 9 tons per load on the demo. I believe the containers are the same size. And on the compacted solid waste loads, you were seeing 13, 14, 15 tons typically on average on those compacted loads. So if you're putting that much trash into the demo bin, albeit it has been compacted, but it's kind of skewing things a little bit on their numbers there. But anyways, he was suggesting another setup for those trucks when they come in to dump in separate from where we would go and dump if we went. But I mean, for me, I'm adding this all up and I'm thinking, I mean, you're probably pushing $250,000 to $300,000 in the next 5 years if they were to implement all this. And right now they've got a $10,000 allocation in their budget this coming year for capital, and they've got a $50,000, just short of $50,000 fund balance. And so without any reserves presumably showing on their paper, I mean, I'm a little worried, you know, with that longer term planning as to are we going to see,
they're going to fund it through.
we've been seeing 8% increases over the last 3 years, year over year. And so, I mean, if that's not accounting for all those needs, what does that look like going forward
What do they have for
in the next few
surplus?
years? About 50 grand.
That's it?
Yeah. Yep,
So did you bring that up?
we did.
And what'd they say?
It's been working so far, and they acknowledge that there's some things that need to happen, but it seems to be working for now.
No
Worried about
foresight.
cost to people.
Everything works until it doesn't.
So I worry about, and the same reasons we're gonna have conversations about these large capital increases. You know, we can certainly say like, we just can't afford it right now and we'll wait till it breaks, but when it breaks, you need
Then you need it.
it.
And you need to pay
Either
for
you're
it.
down or you're losing service.
Yeah.
Yes.
They lost the backhoe this past year, needed significant repairs. They had to rent something. The combination of the rental and the repairs was $30,000. It adds up quick.
Mm.
You know, we had the same thing that we just went through with the whacker. There
Yeah.
comes a point where equipment has to be replaced.
Yeah.
We were fortunate to have a reserve balance and then find favorable 0% interest on a machine. And ran that out.
Well, you got enough to manage here, so we'll have to let them manage that.
We do have to let them manage. We aren't at the table to be able to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
If they
$180,000.
No, I hear you. No, I hear you, but
Hit us with a big bill.
you brought it up and nothing else you can do, I guess.
Right. So just bringing that forward as part of that contract. Kevin had a very different memo for his board than I'm prepared to present. At this point, I want more information. I want to understand, can we come to the table and become a member community and then decide if that's something we feel is in our interest to do? But work through some of that a little bit more to understand where their
Are
vision
they
is.
open to allowing new members?
Last I heard, no. A few years ago, the town tried to do this,
No.
and it wasn't an option.
But maybe funding their capital needs is the way to get into it.
Right.
If that's something
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I mean, I know we want to, on our side, we want to have more manageable and known expenditures
Yeah,
year over
it'd be
year.
helpful to have a seat at the table.
So not seeing these spikes when you have a manager saying, we know this is what I feel we need to have here.
Yeah.
Just worries me a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's it with that.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't see an issue not to sign this year's contract. We have
Well, it's
no reason.
We don't have it, yeah.
Not good.
No. All right. Well, we'll move forward with it. I'll approve the Noblesboro Jefferson Transfer Facility contract as presented.
I'll second.
Yes, all right. Thank you, Josh. Any more discussion on that one? Hearing none. All those in favor? All right.
This year.
We all signed
This
it.
year.
We don't-
Yeah, I've got a copy right here, Josh. Yeah, send that down. Okay, I think we got everything covered. Nothing sneaking in at the end. Make sure we moved everything around, so our recognize Leslie over here trying to keep up with us and yeah.
Okay, Leslie?
Pen racing, yeah. Yeah, any board discussion? No discussion? Tom, we'll start down. Anything?
No.
All right.
No,
Good.
still happy with the plowing people. They're very meticulous about doing our turnaround. So
Cool. Yeah, Dan's got something. He's looking.
I got, well, two things, because you mentioned the plow thing, so I have to mention this. Three people have mentioned that the plows make a lot more noise this year than they did in prior years.
Really?
Yeah, so, and the only reason I mention it is that, and this actually relates to the thing I actually wanted to just tell Josh, but the board as well. So I do, it was just out of the blue. I do, taxes. I'm a volunteer tax preparer at the library since the tax site started. So this lady came in and she lives in an apartment on Main Street. And she said, I didn't get a good night's sleep last night. And we were doing her taxes. And I said, why? Well, the plow just makes so much noise coming down the street. And I wasn't going to tell her that I'm on the board at that point. And she says, oh yeah, last year, this was never a problem. And then the lady across the street from me mentioned it as well. She said, oh my God, the plows are just like so noisy coming up the street. And I have no idea. So,
Yeah.
but that's for whatever it's worth.
Comparable
we have the
equipment.
quiet plows on
Yeah,
our street.
yeah,
so we're not gonna
comparable
steer them
equipment,
with
yeah,
those.
so
That's in the for whatever it's worth. I don't think there's anything we can do about it. It's just,
Yeah.
I just thought I'd pass it
I
along.
don't think they're out.
They're out all the time.
Yeah.
I know.
They're there, they're plowing.
They're out
and-
there.
There's more storms this
They-
year that we've had in the past, and they are consistently out.
They are.
Oh, yeah, they're out
No,
there.
no, they are.
On top of it.
Proactive? I don't hear that they're noisier than.
Okay, well, then, but I'm just passing it along.
I'm
No
just
problem.
saying,
I mean,
The huge machine that used to come down my street no longer comes down it. It's like a normal
Wow.
plow
Okay.
that comes down. So I'm thrilled to death that I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
ripping up half the.
Yeah, and the other thing was that you had mentioned, we were talking about taxes and property taxes in particular. So the state does have has enhanced its property tax fairness program. And it's a refundable credit so that we're seeing people getting reimbursements on their taxes up to $2,000 right now. So if you're over 65 and you meet some income requirements and your tax bill is X and your income is Y, you can get up to $2,000 back from the state on your property tax.
So our accountant should know this.
Well, you're not gonna, I'm just gonna
No,
guess
this
you're
is-
not gonna qualify, but I'm just, but just.
But there are,
But you were
Yeah.
talking about people that, they
Yeah.
were struggling to make their payment,
Yeah.
and just,
Okay.
they basically have
It's
social
an
security,
avenue
maybe a
where they
little
can
bit
look
of
at
If your
income.
gross income is under 80,000, you qualify. I
Yeah,
think,
so
right?
and there's a lot of people that do that.
Yeah.
Anyone who has taxes of any mean, and you can tell from their income, you're probably gonna qualify for this credit.
Mhm.
And it'll be up to that. They wouldn't necessarily get 2,000, but we're seeing significantly more in terms of credits this year than we have in the prior years,
Interesting.
whatever it's
Okay.
worth.
Okay.
So just pass it along.
Have you started doing returns?
Oh, well, yeah, I was doing them today.
Today?
So, yeah, we started last week.
So where are you doing this? So.
This is at the library.
At the
So
library?
it's a AARP tax
Okay.
site at the library, but there's also a site at Spectrum, and there's
copies.
one, there's, and they're around.
And it's gonna go back around.
I mean, maybe they live in Bath or wherever, but this is the closest one.
Yep.
But I know the appointments are filling up quick, so whatever that's worth as well.
Yep.
Your spare time, Dan.
It's gotta go back to the other. Same thing.
You were in a tax accountant.
I was just gonna copy.
I'm not.
Keep throwing them on
I-
committees, signing them up
I
and
just,
stuff.
I just, you can get certified,
Right,
so
well,
you take
yeah.
this course
Wait a
and
minute.
it's a really,
But this is the
honestly,
one
it's a
that has all
commitment
the
that you gotta,
signatures, so this is getting
you gotta
more
become
signatures.
certified at their advanced level to be able to do it. So, but the truth is, there's a lot of taxes that are out of scope. So that if you have a really complicated return with K1s and some other
This
partners,
page needs 2 more signatures. This page,
then,
not the other one.
then you're not gonna. be
Just the
able to
top
do it.
page.
Yeah, yeah, I did do
But
that.
for a lot of folks, it's an absolutely terrific program. So.
Yeah, that's good. to
Thank
know
you,
that.
Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
'Cause I've,
So I think
hinted around to a few
Andrea,
people.
No,
Yeah,
Andrew got
you
it,
should.
Dan and I
Yeah.
did it.
then you gotta get it.
Yeah,
John
No,
told me
don't
what
forget the
to do.
second page. It's a mistake. The first page is what we're talking about.
gotcha.
Hey, Ed, signature on both pages, so.
The second page had it dated from Noblesboro for active 2027.
Oh.
If you just sign the top one, I'll just photocopy and send
Okay.
it back unless.
All right.
Want to delay our payment to
Sounds good.
2027.
Hey, they sent it, so hey, deferred payment.
Move along.
All right.
I'm
We got
fine.
Andrew's fine. All right. Josh?
No, I just wanna say,
Happy
know,
New Year.
when I'm out plowing in the middle of the night, and I might see a town manager buzzing around, too, and there's the little green tractor that him and John fight over.
This is a light.
Yeah, so I just want to, I appreciate the crew, Andy and John, for doing what they're doing. It has been a little bit busier this year than it has in the past, but it's also nice to see the equipment that we've invested in to be used, and I think they're doing a pretty good job, so.
Well, it seems like feeling out the capabilities of the department, what equipment they are equipped with, and yeah, so.
But did
I think
you
Andy
say
likes to play with the sandbox.
you're both filling that other position?
I haven't had anyone apply yet.
Fingers crossed, keep looking.
I'm trying,
People
I'm
are-
trying to actively
Yeah.
recruit,
Oh,
so
good.
I'm doing the best I
I
can.
I haven't thrown it on Indeed. This might be something I can throw on Indeed and just cast a wider net, for the position that it is, and maybe have some better luck with
May
that
not hurt.
avenue, but.
Might not hurt.
I know Jason did that with the police recruitment there and, got a lot, but, there was probably 3 or 4 that were worth following up on.
Yeah.
But I'll give it a shot for,
How did we get
May not
John?
hurt, so.
John had asked about it a year before when he thought it was the foreman's position at that point and said it wasn't. So, when it came up again, I reached out to him and said, hey, it's open now.
Yeah.
And so he was still interested.
Kind of in the works, so, yeah.
And he doesn't know anyone.
I mean, he knows people, but none that obviously he's shared it with some that he thought might be interested, but
Yeah.
hasn't transpired.
Didn't
anything.
pan out. Still working.
Yeah.
I'm still looking around trying to push.
It'll turn out.
Over
Somebody
here
will,
and there.
somebody will turn out.
Yeah.
They always do. It might take a little while, but
Yep.
the right person in, so. The only thing I mentioned, thank the, Andy and the town staff. I mean.
These are great.
Getting the budget together as you guys do and the breakdowns and the transparency. I mean, there's a lot going on there. So that's a lot. I know it's a lot of work and you guys put I wasn't bugging you yesterday. I just wasn't
Yeah.
sure if you had.
I saw the manufacturer of it. Came in at 11, the back door, and there was 3 or 4 people putting these things
Just
together.
giving input and stuff and then, make sure thank everybody, let them know we appreciate it. There's a lot of work there. So, but.
It's a balance between starting too soon and to make sure you're getting the most accurate numbers. I mean, there's still some
Right.
things that we haven't heard back on, like Trio. Trio's
Right.
a known, pretty sizable expense for us for the municipal software. I think we're estimating an increase to go from like 21 to 24,000, but we haven't heard back officially what it is yet.
I know, there's always.
So we
people
are
that can't
getting,
tell
but
that.
that's the challenge we kind of run. The sooner we're trying to get it out, the more uncertain we are about some of those next year increases. And so
Yeah.
try and
You do the best you can. You guys do good. So thank you. Yeah, that's it. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, please.
Josh made a motion. Okay,
Second.
seconds. Heard. So here you go, but I heard Andrea.
I didn't say anything.
All right, so Andrea gets the second on that one. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, we are adjourned.